Hi, my name is Sohil Safari, and this is my game stage presentation. So, the material that I chose, or the mineral that I chose, is diamonds. I'm going to be talking about a diamond operation mining out of Sierra Leone. The reason I chose Sierra Leone is because I want to choose a developing country, and I was interested in talking about Sierra Leone after watching Blood Diamond, and as you'll see, which is kind of the focus of my discussion. My goal is to develop or aim to develop Sierra Leone and hopefully leave the place a better place after the mining operation. Additionally, I would like to focus on the environmental impact, as I think the environmental impact is just as important as being able to offer an ethical solution for Sierra Leone. So, as we've studied, Sierra Leone is a vastly rich uh, resource country. And although they're rich in resources, they are extremely poor and one of the poorest countries on Earth. And this is kind of why they've been somewhat targeted, because they have a lot of resources and not really much way to actually extract these resources efficiently. So other countries will come in, and even internally, they'll come in and basically take advantage of the people and offer unethical ways of mining. And this is kind of what started the whole blood diamond or conflict diamond idea, as is seen in also the movie. Uh, One of the goals of the company, which is surrounding the idea previously mentioned, is to create an opportunity that will ideally benefit the economy of Sierra Leone, specifically the mining economy, and also while being ethical and environmentally friendly. It's going to be extremely difficult just because of the state of Sierra Leone, and as I'll discuss further on, the infrastructure state and even the ability to access certain areas to actually mine is going to be difficult. So the idea of one country which is developed entering another country to extract resources and kind of leave the place as a wasteland is not really a new idea, as we've seen in this course, and you've probably seen in the news. Oftentimes, developed countries will enter a different country and extract it of its resources that are abundant, and then leave the place a wasteland or leave the people just getting by, as is seen in Congo with coltan, as we've discussed, and also as you've probably seen in the news, where it's kind of controversial uh, and talked about quite widely. The U.S. entering several different countries, or other superpower countries entering other countries for its oil and resources, and leaving the place war torn and a wasteland. My company goal is to try to create a new idea and change the way of the past and create a sustainable solution that aids the locals and the country's economy. And that is the goal with Sierra Leone, to not only bring prosperity to the people, but also to not leave too much of an environmental impact while doing so. Ideally, at the end of the day, we can help to shape their future rather than just survive day to day, as I've seen in the wages that are being paid to these people, which is almost $7 or $8 a day, which is actually one of the better opportunities in Sierra Leone. So, looking into the mining operation, I found that uh, open pit mining is really not too much of an option because of the soil composition. Your best bet is probably alluvial mining or surface mining, just because of uh, the state of the soil and sort of the state of the country itself as well. Uh, so it is going to be secondary deposit, and As I've said, I've chosen diamonds, and the reason I've chosen diamonds is because Sierra Leone is very well known for diamonds. I thought it'd be kind of a little controversial, but also diamonds are extremely in demand as they're used in manufacturing and probably more so going to be used in manufacturing in the future. And they're also a luxury good, which is not really, the demand is not really going to change all too much. Some risks that go along with alluvial mining is the risk of malaria, especially in African countries. Uh, the exposure to chemicals during and after if remediation is not appropriately executed, and this can also lead to environmental catastrophes because of the water that is left behind and deforestation that occurs oftentimes in uh, these mining operations during and after because of poor remediation. My company will aim to minimize these risks. As seen in the images in the previous and the current slide, the previous slide was showing a gold mining operation, and this slide is also showing an iron mining operation, which is both, to my knowledge, alluvial mining. And as you can see, it's a kind of sophisticated system where I'm hoping to employ this sort of system to avoid the risk of malaria, especially uh, to the workers, and also to reduce the environmental impact as well by kind of keeping the area of mining concentrated, and also take appropriate remediation steps after the fact to leave the country uh, ideally better off than when we enter. The goal is also to offer employees competitive wages to ideally start a movement and help the people instead of aiding them to get by day to day, as many of the other operations which are currently in Sierra Leone and also other countries in the area are basically just aiding the people to get by. And many of the people don't have any opportunity better in the area, so they just flock to these sort of opportunities. And as I said, it is important to combat the negative impacts because this is pretty much the main focus point of my company. And as discussed, IV remediation and also appropriate planning is required to avoid environmental impact and environmental catastrophes that could potentially happen because of mudslides and as a result of deforestation. Additionally, also because of uh, harsh chemicals being exposed to the water table and just being left without remediation or even cared for. I think it'll be also extremely difficult, as seen in the image that I have above, because Sierra Leone does not have very much infrastructure uh, appropriate for, or updated infrastructure appropriate for this sort of mining operation. So this will make it either costly, extremely difficult, or near impossible in certain areas to actually have a processing facility or even be able to mine in certain areas potentially, especially with the uh, sort of advanced alluvial mining methods that I'm hoping to deploy to minimize the risk. So that means outsourcing, especially for processing, will likely be required. And this may even be an issue because of being able to access these remote areas will also be an issue because of the lack of road work or the lack of roads in Sierra Leone and also the lack of electricity in certain areas in Sierra Leone. Ideally, a system can be created to actually support the people and build the infrastructure to eventually become more efficient in in mining and even in the day-to-day lives of these people or the people of Sierra Leone, although this may just be a pipe dream at this point. So, from the learning outcomes of looking into Sierra Leone and my mining operation, I found that there's some deeply rooted issues, especially in the political side of Sierra Leone, where there's a lot of corruption and there's a lot of uh, people and large companies taking advantage of Sierra Leone and countries like that, as we've seen in uh, Dominican, sorry, the Democratic Republic of Congo. We've also seen that other large companies will come in and pay minimum, the minimum amount that they can to actually get these REE and other materials like gold and such, and leave the people pretty much just getting by. So I've learned that it's probably going to be very difficult to actually be able to make this operation effective, and also even some of the goals that I discussed previously might be near impossible, especially at this point. But I think the idea is important to have because it can bring change to these people's lives and give some sort of movement and some sort of way to potentially get out of the system that they're in. Um, and as discussed, I had to choose secondary mining, and with this, it brings the risk of malaria and other environmental impacts, such as not being able to effectively remove waste from the area. But ideally, with the sophisticated sort of system that I showed previously, made by CDE Group, potentially be able to combat these sort of environmental impacts through processing that is not only uh, environmentally friendly, but also reduces the risks associated with stagnant water that is associated also with malaria. Ideally, my company can bring change and hopefully help Sierra Leone kind of in this uphill battle and develop their infrastructure to actually support this sort of system. But as I've learned kind of through some research, this is likely going to be a difficult sort of task, especially compared to different countries which have, I guess, more resources and more backing to actually create this sort of solution. Additionally, it's also going to be difficult just because uh, it's not only the people surely want this sort of change or this sort of opportunity because of the increase in wage, obviously, but this might not be something the government will want because of different political issues that are going on within the country, or some sort of, even there must be a lot of corruption in Sierra Leone, and because of that, this might pose another challenge to actually be able to implement this sort of system. So maybe just one company going in is not enough, but I think that starting this sort of movement and start having this sort of idea is the starting place for the change that you want. And I think that using a state-of-the-art alluvial extraction method, which really is probably not very costly in terms of the profitability versus the cost. There will be an initial upfront cost, but I think over time, not only will there be the financial benefit of this sort of system, you will also have left the country ideally a better place and develop the infrastructure to actually reduce the cost over time as well. Overall, I learned quite a bit from this course, and I'm glad I took it. And thank you for listening to my presentation.